Man, so the Indian ceremony is over. Man, it's freaking hot.
CinematicBams films.
Good morning, folks. So we're at the Palm House, Tower Grove, St. Louis, Missouri, for this. It's a double wedding. We got regular tradition, white ceremony. And then after that, we have the Indian ceremony. It's gonna be a long day. Take you guys with me. Let's go. All right, so first things first, I'm going to always put my DJI Air 2 drone up in the air to establish location. When you view my films, it's important that you know where we're at because I travel a bit much. I love this venue. The venue had high ceilings, so I was able to fly the actual drone inside the venue to get some water shots. So we move on to the bride. The bride, she didn't want that typical makeup shooting as the makeup was being applied to her face. She wanted the kind of candid B-roll shots of her getting ready and with her mother. Also, if you ever watch my films, you notice I never really shoot the actual wedding dress because I feel like the bride is going to have it on. So you'll see it when she have it on. But the photographer put this dress in such a nice spot. The lighting was perfect. The everything was perfect about where it was sitting, so I had to shoot the dress in that case. All right, so now we're on to the first look with the dad. Typically, I may do a two-camera setup for this particular shot. I did a one-camera setup because there was two photographers out there, and I didn't want them in all my shots. So I knew I could control the shots that were in my particular hand. I do like to roll in some B-roll during this shot, like I did with her dad with the first dance, just to add to the emotion, the feels, him crying, him being in his feelings at this moment. I think it was just a good look. Here's an actual clip of me moving around with the gimbal. I was shooting with a Canon R6 Mark II. Since I was shooting with just the one camera, I actually preferred being on my gimbal versus just setting it up on a tripod and being just static in one spot. It allowed me to change the focal lengths, going from 24 to 70. I can crop in. I felt like the photographer was about to get in my shot, so I was able to come in a little tighter to make sure I keep the photographer out of the shot. It worked out pretty well. All right, folks, so we just did the first look with Maddie and Tushar. It was pretty dope. Now we're about to do the traditional white ceremony. About to go set up. Let's go. So the bride and groom didn't have any wedding party. It was just them and their parents that happened to walk them down. During the ceremony part, I did do some B-roll rolling in the mom and groom dance, and even getting to the bride. I did the same. I rolled in her and the dad first dance. I definitely love the lighting in this venue. It was all natural lights, a lot of windows. I was able to get some tight shots and wide shots, and it came down pretty slow. So I was able to work with what I had. So now we're on to the ceremony. During the ceremony, I mic up the groom and I mic up the officiant. I do a two-camera setup. One is always to the left, maybe adjusting behind the bride to the left of her. It's my groom camera where I can get the angle on him. The other one is in my hand on a gimbal. During this time in the ceremony, I used their photo shoot as B-roll. That way you're not sitting just watching them in the ceremony for 10 or 15 minutes just saying their vows and talking. I also make sure I switch the camera angle anywhere between 15 to 20 seconds. I feel like it keeps your attention to want to watch it when the camera is switching. I love the natural light in this particular venue, and that was pretty much it. I just made sure I changed up the angles. I did some different things during the vow, doing the split screen, um, doing some new stuff. So we just finished we just finished ceremony one. Now it's time for the Indian ceremony. Good thing is we get a little break in between We did first look, as you seen. We already talked about that. Rory did the prep shots, photo shoot. It's going real smooth, man, but it is hot out here in St. Louis. Now we're on to the Indian ceremony. This was actually my first Indian wedding I ever shot, so I just went with the flow. Got some B-roll of the setup where they were going to be set up at, and then we pretty much just rolled back into the bride. She, once again, she didn't want the makeup shots, even though her makeup was already done, so we didn't have to worry about that. So I just got some candid shots of her friends and family and his family getting her ready. And then we went to the first look of them once again. At first, I was down there with him, and then I switched the angle and I got up there with her to get that angle when he turned around. And it was just real simple. I mean, what he had on, I really couldn't mic him up, so I just used the audio from the camera since I was close to her. We went to the parade. He had a horse. They had a band. They had some of everything going on with the parade. But I kept it short because we was out there for maybe about 15 minutes or so with this particular parade shot. I didn't want it to be too long, so I just made sure I just got as many different shots that I can put together for this particular scene. And then when we got into the actual ceremony part was probably like, man, like 30 minutes, but I knew I was going to compress it down and make it limited. I did have a two camera setup, but I ended up using the camera from my hand on the gimbal for majority of these shots. I just like them better. The one on the tripod was just sitting there. There was no movement. So I went with the shots in my hand. Man, so the Indian ceremony is over. Man, it's freaking hot. My batteries are dying. Luckily, I got about 6 of them. See, battery died in the middle of that. It's so hot, it's just killing my batteries. So the Indian wedding is done. Now we got the reception part, first dance, probably some speeches. I'm gonna have to reserve some power, so I'll see you guys later. So when they came in for the reception interest part, it was really simple. I just on this shot wanted to get the guests that attended their ceremonies into the shot. I love the fixtures at the top of the ceiling, also the big palm trees in the back. So I wanted all that in this shot and just not them. Then when they got to their first dance, I think they rehearsed this. So I made no cuts. I basically let it just roll the way it was performed by them two. What I did do is I did make sure I moved around. I didn't want to just stay to the left side of them. I wanted to get a wide shot with the guests in the frame. I wanted to get a tight shot with the hands. And I knew I can do this without making any slight cuts as well. Then we got to the reception, which is one of my favorite parts. The reception, anything with my ceremonies are originally music from or sounds from their particular day. I want you to relive that day to the fullest, excuse me. I do roll in the cake cutting in this part, and as you see, I can split the screen, roll it in real simple, and it goes with the reception part as well. During this time, most of the time use the light from the DJ if the DJ brings in their own light versus me using mine. And I want everything to be natural from their particular day. I don't put a hard light on my camera. I feel like it's very distracting. I just use a natural light that is in the actual venue. And then even when they go to they turn off the lights, the good thing is they still have some lighting that I can still use. And then also, I'm not on my gimbal during this whole time as well. The gimbal is very distracting. I want to be that guy with the camera, but you're not looking at me as the guy with the camera. I want to fit in. I want to squeeze in with my camera, and you do what you do, and not really paying attention to me really being there. That's the important part about the reception, how I'm able to get the shots that I get because I don't want to be disruptive. Other than that, make sure you check out this film if you haven't already. It definitely was one of my favorites to create, and look forward to the next one. Peace.